Well, hi, everybody, and welcome. We're going to have a little Superior Essex NASCAR driver hangout. I'm Marty Snyder from NBC Sports. JJ Yeley, a Superior Essex driver who will be at Darlington this weekend as well in the Cup Series, driving the number 53 Jacobs Construction Ford. Noah Gregson joins us as well, driver of the number 9 Bass Pro Shop Chevy Virginia Motorsports, and also Maya Snyder, driver of the number 93 car this weekend, the Superior Essex car this weekend at Darlington. So we want to have a little hangout, guys. I think this is a great way to bring NASCAR fans kind of back into it since they can't be at the race this weekend. JJ, I'll start with you. Kind of what have you been doing during this whole pandemic?
I've been growing a beard, which is part
How's
of
it going?
It's still a struggle. I mean, I'm almost 50 days in, and it's still not really what it probably should be for this long and not shaving. But I spent a lot of time with my family here at home and a lot of planting. I've had enough of putting bushes, flowers, trees, you name it. So I'm definitely ready to get back to the regular schedule of racing. I mean, this is probably the first time in 12, 14 years that I've seen springtime at home. So it's beautiful, but I'm ready to go back racing.
I'm sure you're like everybody else. Everybody's ready to go back racing. So, Noah, how about you? I mean, you could either spend your time in North Carolina or in Las Vegas. So where did you wind up spending most of the pandemic?
I went back to Vegas to spend time with my family and did a little bit of mountain biking, swimming, just kind of relaxing out there and whatnot. But I'm ready to get it back going during all this craziness. But the one hobby I've gotten good at is eating to-go food in the car, in the parking lot of the restaurant. I've gotten pretty good at that. I didn't think I'd ever do that in my life, but it's been pretty good. So just trying to spend time at home and do some iRacing and whatnot. So it's been fun.
So you've been a takeout guy this whole time? Like you've been doing drive-through food the entire time?
Yeah, I've
proved that, Noah.
made some peanut butter and jellies and top ramen and stuff like that, but I'm not very good at cooking at all. So I'm more of the type to go out and pick something up or go over to a buddy's house if they're cooking, family member's house. So, yeah, it's been going good.
So, Maya, I know you've been busy. You have been moving into a new house. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm actually in the quote-unquote iRacing room right now. I've got one of my roommates set up behind me, and I'm actually sitting in my setup right now. It's a bit jerry-rigged, but it's an office chair, so it kind of works for this. But yeah, I've been busy this whole time, kind of doing a slew of different things. A lot of home projects. We're actually trying to build a cage for my girlfriend's pet earlier today, which was somewhat successful. I think I should probably stick to race cars, but been doing that, doing a bit of cooking here and there, and just like Noah, I've been getting good at eating takeout food in my car as well. Me and my girlfriend call it a car picnic whenever we go and do it. So yeah, I've been staying busy.
So you mentioned house projects, and JJ mentioned house projects. So Maya, I'll start with you. What's been the most rewarding house project, or maybe the most difficult house project you've taken on?
Well, believe it or not, somehow I managed to move into a house in Huntersville with no HOA. So it actually came with chickens, and I have been basically taking care of chickens for the last 2 months since I've been here. So it's been a interesting experience. Not something I ever thought that I would be doing in my life, but here I am keeping chickens alive.
JJ, you don't have any chickens, do you? You didn't have any chicken house projects involved in the quarantine, did you?
No. I've become quite the barbecue connoisseur. So I've spent most of the time chasing down chicken anywhere in Israel that I could find it. But I haven't been doing it to raise it. I've been doing it to cook it. So, there was a brief period there where you couldn't find hardly anything at the grocery store. So, I mean, Maya's probably lucky that someone didn't end up in his house sneaking out one of his chickens. He would have showed up in the morning and would have been chickenless.
So what was
I had to be careful. I had to be real careful to watch out, make sure nobody's breaking in at 2 in the morning and come steal my chickens.
Did you eat any of your chickens?
No, not yet. I don't think I could. I've already given them all names, so it'd be a little bit hard to turn one of them into food.
You got chickens. Tell us the names now and what kind, like Noah said.
So I've got one white chicken. His name is John Travolta. I didn't pick that name. The other one is a brown chicken. She's named Gorgeous. And the other one is a gray chicken. And she's the oldest one, so we call her Henrietta.
That's good stuff. So, JJ, what was the toughest house project you had during the quarantine?
I had about 10 yards of river rock put in down the street from me. I had to work on some drainage. So being frugal like I am, I asked them to just dump the rock and I would put it where I wanted. And after about 3 hours of wheelbarrowing, river rock that's 2 to 6 inches in size, I thought, man, this probably was not the smartest idea, which I was able to talk my neighbor into helping a little bit, and then my wife was out there helping as well. So it made it fun, but it was definitely a long day of labor, which I did as a kid doing construction, and it reminded me of why I drive race cars.
You reminded quickly why you don't do manual labor, right?
Well, I try not to. At least free manual labor. I don't mind doing manual labor when you get paid, but I have to do it for free. Get the fun out of it.
You don't pay yourself, do you? That's why you're a frugal young man, as you said. So, no, how about you for house projects? Do anything fun or anything challenging other than drive-throughs?
No house projects really. Just trying to keep it clean through all this time. I mean, staying home and eating pizza at home and stuff, it starts to get messy. The trash can fills up quicker when you stay home all the time. So definitely been trying to keep it clean, but no real big house projects here lately.
So Noah, how have race teams been spending their time? I mean, obviously, and for most of the teams that are located in North Carolina, they couldn't work. I mean, my team's a little bit of an exception at RSS Racing. They were able to work because they were in Georgia, so they worked a little bit longer. But how have race teams, from your standpoint, been able to work to prepare for Darlington? And have you interacted with your crew chief much at all?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time doing some Microsoft Teams meetings with them, just being able to meet and go over data from the past. We tested at Darlington last year, so really going in depth looking at that, getting prepared for Charlotte, Bristol, different tracks. I think we did a handful meeting, maybe half a dozen. So just trying to get prepared, because once we get into the race season, we thought it was going to be – this was probably 3-4 weeks ago. We thought it was going to be back-to-back-to-back races, multiple races a week. So we didn't think we were going to have as much time to prepare. But it seems like that's more of the Cup route. Us Xfinity guys, we have a little less than a week in between each race. So it's not too bad. But I haven't been able to go to the shop yet. I've been able to go in the back and grab my gear for a photo shoot out of the hauler, but – haven't been able to go in. I'm supposed to sit in the car, I think, Saturday, but I'm nervous going into the race here at Darlington. It feels like normally you're able to go through the off season, go to Daytona, make a couple laps, single car runs, and get back comfortable inside the race car, knock the rest off. But going WFO into turn one, wide open, with a bunch of guys around you, haven't been in race cars for a long time. I know I'm going to be rusty and everybody else is. So once we get a few laps in, it'll be fine, but I'm nervous for the first few laps.
So that's an interesting perspective. You've never been to Darlington. We'll get to that in a little bit. But during the quarantine, how's it been for you? Because you're having to deal with 2 race teams, RSS Racing, Richard Childress Racing. So you're actually having to keep up with 2 teams. Like Noah said, he's only got to keep up with 1 team.
Yeah, it's been a unique challenge. I actually just went back to RCR for the first time yesterday to kind of sort out everything and how it's going to look for the upcoming races. Because it's a weird new normal that we have to get used to. So got to hang out there, got to grab my gear for this weekend, got to do a little bit of catching up with my crew chief there, and so it's it's just weird because I'm looking at the schedule for this weekend and how things are going to play out, and I don't know how things are going to look, but it's certainly going to be something unique for our first weekend back.
So is everybody having to social distance at the shop and wear masks? I mean, how does all that work?
Yeah, so they're actually having the stay at the shop guys, just the fabricators and guys who build the chassis and all that. They're having all those guys come in for almost a normal schedule. They leave at 4 o'clock in the day, and then the road crews, like the crew chiefs and the engineers and all that, they come in at about 4:30, and that's when we're allowed to start working. So I think they've been doing that since the beginning of the week, and they're having to work some late nights to get ready. But they're making the most of it. They're having fun, and they're ready to get back racing like all of us.
So JJ, does it make it tougher on a smaller Cup Series team because you have the bigger teams, like Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, and they're spending tons of time, on sim getting ready for Darlington. For you guys or Rick Ware Racing, is it more difficult to show up at a track cold like that? No practice and just go race.
Well, I mean, it does and it doesn't. Obviously, not having the other series are going to create some challenges for smaller teams. There's a lot of times where we will, go and find some scuffed tires that have very limited amount of laps from some of the Xfinity teams going into Sunday's race. Obviously, that's not going to be an option now because, we're going to show up and go out and race. The guys have been working very, very hard at the shop. We just moved into the shop at Mooresville, and now that we have everything kind of situated, it's been definitely all hands on deck. So, the difference we have now versus when the guys were in Thomasville, we do have access to some pull-down rigs that we may not have had before. Luckily for me, I have Mike Hillman Sr. is my crew chief. He's got a ton of experience, so his notebook is very, very thick. So, it gives me a little bit more confidence knowing that, we're going to go unload and go, straight into racing in a racetrack that's virtually been sitting almost a year. I guess a little bit of advantage for the Xfinity guys. We'll have a little bit of rubber on the track for them, but to go off into turn one, it's going to be, 90 degrees is what I think it's showing for Darlington on Sunday. It's going to be hot, slick. The racetrack is going to be more similar to what it used to be prior to the repave in 2008. So tires are going to wear out fast. And I think you're going to have some guys that are going to be pretty anxious to get going. We have some guys that haven't been racing for a couple of years. So there's a lot of different things happening going into Sunday's race in Darlington.
So how are you as an iRacer, JJ? Did you get quarantine time doing a little iRacing? I know the other two kids did, so I didn't know if the veteran dude on this call did or not.
I originally did not have anything to do with iRacing. I didn't have a rig. I had not spent much time in any kind of sim racing. And then obviously once we were in lockdown right after Homestead, I went and purchased one, did a crash course and trying to learn all I could about iRacing and some of the settings. And, I had a couple races there where, it's amazing how realistic the view and a lot of the things that come along with iRacing and sim racing. There's a lot of things that don't carry over from, all the years of real racing that, some of the lines, some of the things that happen, but how realistic, the weather, the tire fall off, some of those things is really phenomenal. So it took me a while to kind of get it figured out. My biggest thing is I always overdrove the car. I always wore out my tires. So just having to be a little bit more patient with it. It wasn't until, one of the last couple races I really figured I needed to start backing that down. But definitely had a lot of fun with it. I think the fans really enjoyed watching all the different guys out there. There's, the older veterans like myself or Kyle Busch jumped in. I don't think he was a real big fan of iRacing, but, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, those guys all had a blast. But, to see guys like Timmy Hill and, my teammate Garrett Smithley, Landon Castle, guys who've been on it for years and years and years, go out there and kind of show spending all that time really paid off for those virtual races we had.
It was good to see some of those names up front, wasn't it? And Timmy Hill certainly winning the race at Texas. So, Noah and Maya, which one of you was better at iRacing?
Not me. I hit everything. I hit the pace car. I hit the grandstands. I hit everything. Not a lot back.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I can't hardly race without that in the seat feel. Like for me, the race car's telling me what it's doing whenever it moves around on the racetrack. But in iRacing, all you have is what you're looking at on the screen. So for me, it's always been a challenge to kind of adjust to that. But I think having all this time to do it has helped me improve quite a lot. So I've gotten a little bit better, but I'm still no Ty Majeski by any stretch.
That's a good point. Who is it iRacing, right? As good as Ty Majeski. So for you young guys, is there any tougher place in Darlington to start it off with? I don't think for anyone there's a tougher place, Noah, to start off with in Darlington, is there?
No, my good buddy Riley Herbst, I'm sure you've never been there, right?
No, I haven't.
So yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be able to test down there last year and race, but I remember going to the test and I know Riley, and I don't know about you, but Riley's sweating bullets right now going down there. he's been asking me all sorts of questions. Hey man, what side's the tougher side? Turn 1 and 2 or turn 3 and 4? And you can tell he's super nervous. So I've been trying to calm him down and just talk to him and show him my notes and stuff for that place. But definitely a challenging racetrack. When you look at the line around that place, you would think the race line, the fast line, if you saw it just an average Joe racer, you'd say that's not the correct line. I mean, you enter on the bottom and mid-corner, you're at the wall, and then you exit super low, and it just looks all messed up in turn 1 and 2. But it's a really, really fun racetrack. It's incredible to make laps at. That was probably one of the most fun tests I've ever had, just being able to go out there and see how much the tires degrade and whatnot. But nonetheless, you're going to have a lot of fun, Myatt. It's a really cool racetrack.
Oh, you're making me looking forward to it. It sounds like a really fun track, and based on what I've done on iRacing, it seems like a blast. Seems like you almost have to wait an eternity to get on the gas in 3 and 4, but that's all part of the dance.
So, JJ, since you're the veteran, do you have any advice for Myatt since he's never been there before?
Hold on to yourself. It's amazing just how different turns 1 and 2 are compared to 3 and 4. Obviously, the fact that you can run 1 and 2 wide open for, I mean, even when the tire fall off happens, you can still do it for almost 8 to 10 laps. So comparing that to any other racetrack you go to, you don't get to do that. And then you drive off into turn 3 and you feel like a hero. And then next thing you know, if you haven't slowed that car down, the first thing you do is hit the fence. You know, you're going to earn your Darlington stripe. Sometimes it takes a lap. Sometimes it takes a few. But, you know, the biggest thing that I feel that is tough to do at Darlington is to manage your time from racing people, just because it's the widest racetrack from the inside fence to the outside fence, but the racing line is literally 2 grooves wide. I mean, you drive out there and like, man, this place is 300 foot wide, but you only have 35 foot to race on. It's crazy. So when you catch that slower traffic entering turn 1 and trying to figure out how to get by them before you get the exit to 2, because it's such a fine line of getting off there without either getting on the apron, upsetting the car, or holding your breath and white knuckling and not knocking the fence down coming off of 2. So after a couple laps, you'll kind of get the hang of it, but it'll definitely catch you by surprise in a hurry.
I don't know about you, JJ, but you'll see when you go there, it caught me off guard. Just you go to a normal racetrack. I don't know if you're going to run up near the wall, if that's your plan at all, but if you do, the wall, it's warped, so it goes in and out. And you'll notice it a lot in turns 3 and 4. If you go up and run the wall, it's got some sharp points when it comes to a point, and then it dips back in and it comes out. So definitely really challenging in turns 3 and 4. You'll see what I'm talking about. You've noticed that, right, JJ?
Oh, absolutely. And I think for you guys doing the Xfinity cars, you're going to have – it's going to be easier for you in the sense of with the composite bodies, you have a little bit more room. You can get up and rub the fence, and it's not going to be as bad as it is for the Cup cars where, you know, the tolerances between the tires and the fenders are very, very close. I mean, one slight rub, I mean, there's a really good chance you'll cut down a tire. So it's going to be a little bit more forgiving for you guys. And like I said, I mean, you guys are going to be with both of you guys with great teams. I'm sure the setup will be close. I mean, you have that advantage, I think, of unloading and being close over some of the teams that are really going to be guessing more about what's going to be happening.
Well, we asked the fans for some questions on the Superior Essex Racing Twitter handle, which is SPSX Racing, and we got a few of them. So we'll start with kind of the group, and JJ, I'll start with you on this one. Brandon in Wisconsin wants to know, what is the bucket list racetrack for all 3 of you? And JJ, we'll start with you, and Noah, then you, then Myatt.
A bucket list of track that I want to go to?
You want to go to, yeah.
Oh, man. You know, I mean, I've been racing long enough. I don't know that I really have one that I haven't already been to. And then, you know, I mean, I love racing NASCAR. Obviously, I've been doing it a very long time. But, you know, for me as a racer, I mean, Eldora Speedway, I mean, obviously Tony Stewart owns it now. Earl Baltus made it famous. That is always one of the great racetracks to go to. Obviously, we race the trucks there now. But fun place. One there in some different cars, but just to go out pretty much in the middle of nowhere in some farmland and see one of the coolest, most badass half-mile racetracks is one that everyone should go see at some point in their life.
No, how
For
about
me,
you?
I'd probably the track that I want to go see that's on my bucket list is probably Monaco. Just being able to see going through the streets, see the tunnel, the hairpin. tight technical corners, right base side. I think going to the Monaco F1 race, that's my bucket list one day. I hope to be fortunate enough to be able to go over there and check that out and whatnot. That's probably the race on my list. And then a race that I could race in, probably the Cup race at Sonoma would be a dream of mine.
Mike, how about you?
Oh man, I've got a few. I've always loved the Nürburgring. That is one of the coolest racetracks ever. I mean, it's a 6-minute lap and you're going through 100 different corners. Probably one of the toughest places to get through. Mount Panorama in Australia, that's always really cool. And I up to this year, I always wanted to go to Auto Club, and I fortunately got to go there with Ryan Sieg Racing, and so that one's been crossed up. But yeah, those two are all pretty cool.
All right, next one comes from Marvin in Ohio, who wants to know, what track do you guys most want to see on the Cup or Xfinity Series schedule in 2021? Obviously, a lot of changes coming with the 2021 schedule. We'll go in reverse order. Maya, we'll start with you, Noah, and then back to you, JJ. What do you think? What would you like to see on the Xfinity Series schedule next year, Maya?
I know it may probably never happen, but I think Slinger Speedway in Wisconsin would be a really cool one. If they could get that all done up, either that or the Nashville Fairgrounds. We always could use more short track racing in NASCAR, and I think those two tracks are some of the toughest places. And you look at the Slinger Nationals, and that's always a good race every year.
I think for myself, I've been able to participate in the truck race up in Canada, so I think it'd be really cool. The Canadian fans are really, really into racing. I think they got 60, 70,000 fans up there for the truck race and the Pinty Series race. So it's always a sold-out crowd there. People everywhere, every corner, just a packed house. So racing up in Canada, I think, is really cool, whether it be Canadian Tire Motorsports Park or Montreal. I've always wanted to go to Montreal. I hear the city's great there. I'm pretty into checking out the different cities, going to the different races and whatnot on the NASCAR circuit. So bringing that back, I think that'd be really special and really cool.
Well, after racing last week in North Wilkesboro, I think that's almost a given. I know that Dale Jr. put a lot of time in there. There's been a lot of pressure on Jeff Gordon to maybe step up and invest a little bit. But to go back to a racetrack like that, or even Rockingham, but I think one of those two would be a phenomenal event to go back to, especially as we saw how much excitement came over from last week. So I'm going to vote North Wilkesboro.
Yeah. Hey, Maya, real quick, why don't you talk about that? And Dale Jr. invited you personally to come out and help clean up the Speedway in December. Number one, it was cold, but what was that day like?
Oh, man, that day was probably one of the most interesting days I've had in a while because it was cold, it was rainy. I think after probably, 45 minutes, I couldn't feel my feet, and it was pouring rain outside. We were trying to do lawn work to try and cut the weeds out of the racetrack, and Dale was out there with one of his friends, sweeping up the racetrack, getting the dirt off of it so that they could scan it for iRacing, and it was just incredible to me how in much of a state of disrepair it was, because we checked out all sorts of different facilities. We looked at the concession stand. We looked at the infield care center, which was like a portal into the past, basically, with how untouched things were, apart from like the vandalizations that had happened. But all the stuff, like there was still like 1980s stuff in there, and it was just really unique to see how things were back then. And I just really wish we could go there, because I feel like it would be a phenomenal race if we had it.
Obviously, it was really cool. JJ enjoyed that. JJ, Cup Series question for you from Carl in Ohio. He wants to know how you think Ryan Newman will do this weekend. Obviously, coming back after his accident at Daytona, and so it's tough to come back from a big wreck like that. But also, what do you think about Matt Kenseth? He'll be in the 42 this weekend and will be for the rest of the year. And Carl brought up a great point. The 42's almost won the last two Darlington Cup Series races. So what do you think about Ryan Newman and Matt Kenseth coming back this weekend in the Cup Series, JJ?
Well, I think for Ryan, obviously the fact that he's even able to step back into behind the wheel of a race car after what happened to him in Daytona is phenomenal. I saw him, I've seen him since. He seems great. He's always been in great spirits, Phoenix being the last race we've ran. So, I'm sure that, he's going to be a little apprehensive, as we all are. And I'm sure he'll be fine. I think Kenseth is going to be at the biggest disadvantage in the sense that he hasn't been behind the wheel of the style of race car in a while. So, just trying to get acclimated, to a new team, a new feel, no practice. Again, this guy is a past champion. He's a phenomenal race car driver. I almost won the championship last year. He was a Gibbs. So, it's going to take him a few laps to kind of get warmed up. But I would say that, based off of their previous runs with Kyle Larson and how fast they were and how good things have been for them, they probably won't even miss a beat. So I don't see much of an issue with either one of those two guys moving into Sunday's race at Darlington.
I've been able to spend some time with Matt here these last couple of weeks since I've been back in North Carolina. We're on the same training program with Josh Wise. So I've been cycling with him out to the go-kart track, and you can tell he's amped up and ready to go. He's a very just in-depth person, just really, really focused, you could tell, and just trying to make sure he's as prepared as possible. So I haven't spent any time before this, but you could just tell he's very eager to get into the race car.
I remember his very first Cup race. JJ, you might remember this. It was back when he filled in for Bill Elliott, and he finished sixth that day. And, he was a kid out of the Xfinity Series, so I never underestimate what Matt Kenseth can do, no doubt about that. So this one, Noah and Maya, is for you guys. Ray in Michigan, Xfinity gets to be the first midweek race in NASCAR since the mid-'60s. So do you guys think midweek races are here to stay, and do you think it could be something we see in 2021? Maya, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a TV perspective, there's not a lot of, other than basketball, there's not a lot of midweek stuff that, is truly primetime worthy, so filling in that spot with some extra stuff with NASCAR, I think, is a good idea. And plus it kind of helps to free up the schedule for NASCAR so that they can kind of vary how much time there may be in between races and maybe allow them to get a few more in if they want to, or a few less, depending on what the teams need.
I definitely agree with Maya. It's one of those deals where right now it's going to feel like a weekend for me. Wednesdays feel like Saturdays and Sundays feel like Tuesdays to me right now. The week, I don't even know what day. It's Thursday today or something. I don't know. It's and I've been taking it day by day, really, but it's definitely going to be different racing during the week. I raced 2 years in trucks and was able to go to Eldora both on a Wednesday back in 2017, 2018. It definitely felt different, just the way you go through your week. Normally you have the full, Monday through Thursday to prepare, do your normal routine, go to pit practice, be able to go to the race shop, discuss your weekend coming up with your team, your crew chief, and get dialed in, go to the racetrack. You have a set routine. But with it being midweek races, it's definitely going to feel different. But I'm not opposed to it by any means. I think it's going to be cool to switch things up. And more than anything, I'm just happy to get back to the racetrack.
I think you speak for everybody on that, Noah. We're all happy to get back to the racetrack. We have more fan questions, but we're running out of time. JJ, you had a question for Maya and Noah, right? Didn't you want to ask them about what happened at Las Vegas? I think you mentioned that on social media.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to ask it. I'll let you ask it, JJ.
Well, I was trying to amp up some of the questions there, and I could vividly remember because I was a fill-in at Las Vegas and remembered watching the 9 and I don't believe it was a 93. He was driving for the RCR, going out of back straight. I said, man, those guys are really going after it. And then next thing you know, going out front straightaway, they're spinning and wrecking in front of me. And I thought, man, I wonder what really happened there. And obviously there was some words said and some things that happened. So I just thought I would, while I had these two guys that were both involved in that incident, tell me what was going on out there.
I don't know. I guess I'll let Noah go first.
I was being an idiot. I let my tempers get the best of me. And, not good.
I'll give Noah this. I did mess with him a fair bit that race because there was a time, I think, on the first part of the race where he tried to come up a little bit and block a run that I had, and then I kind of gave him a little tap in the right rear. and then I blocked a run that he had later in the race. So I guess we're kind of tit for tat at that point. But after that, rest is, as you can see on Twitter and so on and so forth. But I mean, we're still racing, so
Okay,
it's all
and
good.
the final part of that question, I guess, would be: did both of you have to go see the boss, Mr. Wayne Otten, in the office? Did you both get to do that, or did you not get that call?
I think it was just me, right?
I didn't get called to it, no.
Yeah, I had a bad stretch there for a couple weeks and wasn't really good. So I've been taking this quarantine to get regrouped mentally and whatnot. But no, Maya and I, we've been teammates in the past over at Kyle Busch Motorsports, and we've raced with each other a fair bit. I remember the first race. Maya ran really well at Myrtle Beach Speedway back in 2015, I believe. And so in the late model stock race, it was what do they call it? The Myrtle Beach 400, I think it is. So that was my first time running with him, and then we've been teammates in the past. So no hard feelings from my end. Just let the emotions get the best of me, but definitely no plans of anything in the future on my end.
Water under the bridge then, right?
That's right.
Hey, JJ, it happens in racing, right? I mean, that's how you gotta treat it like that. You gotta go, hey, it'll turn around another time, I'm sure, right?
I will say one thing. The second time when I let the emotions get the best of me, going down the back straightaway, I had a run on and I'm like, man, I can hook him. I don't want to admit to anything, but I was thinking I could destroy. I knew he was on a backup car, so I really didn't want to destroy his car. So I was thinking maybe just getting him a little loose through the tribal might be my best option, and definitely wasn't the smartest thing I could have ever done. And I guess it's part of it. You make a stupid mistake, which I did, and I pay for it, obviously. But I think just in the future, it's a learning opportunity for myself.
Well, I can tell you, I was only about 2, maybe 4 car lengths behind both of you as we came off of turn 4. So it got really interesting for me. So I'm just glad that, it all worked out for everybody, and that I guess you guys learned your lesson, and especially you, because I know that I've had to go see Wayne before, and sometimes that can be a little bit brutal.
It's not fun when you got to go there during practice either. It gets the point across really well.
Yeah.
He didn't he, like, next week in Phoenix, didn't he have Seth come over and say, hey, we need to come talk to you as soon as practice began?
Well, I already knew, because I texted Wayne, because I knew I had the weekend before, or the weekend that we got together. He was not happy. He said, let's meet before you go on track. Once we get to California. Then I went to California. I had a bunch of damage, and I got called to the hauler. Wayne wasn't there, unfortunately. I got called to the hauler, and learned my lesson not to disagree when you're in the hauler. And so he made his point. I texted him that week saying, hey, can I swing by the NASCAR building down in Concord, come meet you? And he said, no, I'll come see you at the racetrack. I saw him. We were flying to Phoenix. I saw him halfway at the midway stop in Oklahoma or Kansas, wherever we were, in Tulsa. I think, it was Tulsa. And I said, hey, Wayne, once we get off the plane, you go into the racetrack, I'd like to come meet with you. He said, I'll let you know when you can come meet with me. And so I saw Seth waiting, and I got in the car. I was pretending to buckle in because I knew I was going to have to get back out once practice started. So I made sure to get in early and whatnot. But, yeah, not a good feeling. So I've definitely learned my lessons from being a dip dot.
Well, I'm glad we've all put all that behind us. So, hey, real quick, guys, a final word. I know for the fans, listen, it's going to be interesting this weekend with no fans there for the next few weeks. And I would love for you guys, just as we wrap up, a quick word to the fans about, they won't be able to see at the racetrack. So Superior Essex had this great idea. Let's get everybody together in a virtual sense. Let's give something to the fans as we go to Darlington this weekend. So, Maya, we'll start with you with kind of a closing thought as we get ready to go back racing with NASCAR this week.
Yeah, absolutely. These are weird times we're living in. We're having to adjust to a new normal, but thankfully NASCAR has taken a lot of precautions, or they are taking a lot of precautions for this weekend, so that we can be able to go back racing and, make sure everybody's a little less bored and that, we all have something to do this coming Tuesday and Sunday. So I'm just thankful to NASCAR for that, for putting on this race and putting out so many precautions for doing this. And I'm thankful to Superior Essex too for putting this call together so that we could kind of put out some entertainment before the race happens and get us all hyped up.
Cool. Noah, some thoughts from you before we head to Darlington?
Yeah, kind of same thing. I said, I hope everyone's being safe, being healthy, respecting social distancing, staying home and whatnot, and just making sure we can get the fans back to the racetrack as soon as possible would be the main priority, I think. So luckily we get back to the racetrack, and definitely fortunate to have Superior Essex put this call together. Like Myatt said, give the fans some entertainment. So I appreciate all them watching this, and definitely going to be some fun this weekend coming up at Darlington.
And JJ, we give the final word to the senior spokesman for Superior Essex Racing.
Grandpa.
JJ, some thoughts as we head to Darlington this weekend.
Well, it's certainly going to be nice to get back to go to the racetrack. Obviously, it's going to be completely different not to seeing our fans out there. And obviously, that's what makes NASCAR, in my opinion, better than the rest of the sports, because our fans can get so close to us. We have a lot more interaction. So it will be different, but glad that we will be able to get on the racetrack and give them a great show. The quality and product we're going to give them on for the Xfinity cars and for the Cup cars is not going to be any different than what we've seen in years past. Just the unfortunate part, they're not going to be there. So seeing the excitement of people watching iRacing, which was a virtual racing, I'm super ecstatic to see how many people really tune in and are excited to see us back on the racetrack. So again, we're going to give them a great product. We miss our fans. We're glad that we can go out there and race for them. Thanks to Superior Essex. Thank you, Marty, for kind of emceeing everything, and my fellow Superior Essex drivers there. Good luck to you guys when you go back to Darlington next week.
All right.
Thanks. You as well, JJ.
Thank you. You too.
Well, yeah, we want to echo that, JJ, to say thanks to Superior Essex. Give them a follow on Twitter at SPSX Racing. That's their Twitter handle, and you'll be able to keep up with these three guys all year long. And we certainly, on behalf of Superior Essex and everyone, are excited to get back to the racetrack this week at Darlington. We'll see you then.